Okay, how's it going, guys? Dean McKendry here from Sentient Archery, and obviously today we're not looking at me, we're going to be looking at my screen. So what I want to do with this video is this is going to fit into a video series that I'm busy with that is basically on like a modern recurve equipment buying guide. So this particular video is just a walkthrough through a resource that I've created that I want to share with you guys, and I want you guys to be able to access at any point in time to help the process of figuring out what is the right equipment to buy, or rather what equipment do you actually need. So like I said, this is going to be part of a video series, so go check out the other videos as well, and then you'll figure out how this kind of fits into that. So this is just a walkthrough on a Google spreadsheet. So this is a live spreadsheet. I'm going to put the link obviously in the notes or anywhere I share this video, so you can access this at any time as a viewer. Obviously you won't be able to edit. I'm going to be keeping it as a live spreadsheet so that we can edit things as we go. So if you see any mistakes or if you feel like anything should be added or removed from the spreadsheet, chuck it in the comments, and we can then update and you can help us grow this resource. Okay, so basically what we're looking at is an equipment list. So first things first is that this equipment list is very specifically for modern recurve equipment, and it is laid out in such a way that it caters for the IFAA modern recurve shooting styles and also the World Archery modern recurve shooting styles. So there are some of the recurve styles that are not included in this, and that would be the traditional styles as well as standard bow in World Archery. These are styles that we don't really spend a lot of time working with, and they don't really fit within the modern recurve section, should we say. Okay, so as clubs, as a federation, as a business, we really focus on the IFAA and the World Archery shooting styles, and therefore this is what's being laid out in front of you here. So I'm just going to take you guys through it little bit by little bit. Okay, so first thing over here is that we'll see that you've got your equipment list with your section and your items. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to break up all of the items into the different sections. So bow, arrows, shooting gear, stabilization, sights, clicker, draw check, accessories, tools, assembly tools, exercise, and consumables. So depending on where you are, how in depth you want to go with the sport will depend on how much of this equipment you need to acquire. Basically, I wanted to be quite an extensive list of the possible items that you might need or acquire through your shooting career. So then what we've got is we've got the actual item itself. So like here, riser, limbs, bowstring, each individual. I've tried to break this up into as many individual parts as possible because a modern recurve bow is made up of many parts. Then the next column over here is right-handed, left-handed. So what I've done is you'll see where there's a little sort of black triangle in the corner, there's a note here, and that note for this one is going to be basically saying is this item a right or left-hand dependent item? So some items like a riser or a handle is needing to be right or left-hand specific depending on whether you're shooting right-handed or left-handed. Some things like limbs are interchangeable, doesn't matter, you can put limbs into a left or right-handed bow, no problem. So it is not right or left hand specific. So the reason why I'm putting this here is that it's something you need to be aware of when you're placing an order with us or with somebody else. You need to just be specific to make sure that we know, or they know, that you're going to be needing a right hand version or a left hand version. Some things are reversible, but basically what we're trying to do is just give you an indication as to what matters or where is it very important. Okay, then the next column over here is going to be color coded, and obviously I've got the lettering in it, and this then is going to be relevant to the key that's up over here. So you can see that anything green is yes, is going to be required, and that'll be required for each individual shooting style. So obviously it doesn't matter what style you shoot, you will need a riser and a handle, so that's going to be green, yes, 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 yes across the board. Okay, so then basically you've got this will be split into your IFAA shooting styles. Again, I've put a little note here. So IFAA is International Field Archery Association. World Archery is going to be the other federation. And basically just a quick note on that, IFAA is generally speaking your field disciplines with your blue or black and white targets, so no color on the targets, whereas World Archery always has a yellow center. Sometimes that yellow center in field is going to be surrounded by black rings, but generally speaking, it's that typical yellow, red, blue, black, white target face. So these are the World Archery styles, and these would be the actual names of the shooting styles. This is the bow type that you're going to be using in those styles. Okay, so then next column over, I've just got another column over here that's spares. So basically in the notes here, you can see I've said we recommend having and carrying spares of these items. So not everything's going to be ticked, but obviously some stuff really is worth keeping a spare, especially if you're shooting competitively. You know, we have equipment failures, not often, but it does happen on the shooting line, indoors, fields, things like that. You need to be able to quickly either repair or replace an item, especially your high wearing items, things like strings and arrow rests. So this is just again another indication of what you might need to replace or have spares of at hand, yeah, when you're shooting and competing especially. Okay, then the next column over here is just some notes. So this is really not very extensive, but it's just kind of some little bit of extra information about each one of these items, things to think about, things to consider, how they're packaged. Is it, you know, like you'll see over here, usually sold in packs of 12. So it's just a little bit more information about each one of these items and how they're sold and packaged, or yeah, like I say, important considerations. Okay, so that's kind of gives you an idea of the layout. So I'm just going to kind of go through this a little bit. So what you can see is that obviously with the bow, that's your baseline, that's your skeleton structure. You know, you're going to need across all the shooting styles, you'll need riser limbs, you'll need a string, and you'll need an arrow rest. So what we've got over here, for instance, arrow rest, stick on versus wraparound. This, it really depends on quite a few factors as far as to which one you would go for. We generally say that you're going to have a wraparound rest, a stronger rest for your string walking styles, where there may be more sort of vertical movement of the arrow, so you need something a little bit stronger. But a stick-on arrow rest actually works very well across all of the shooting styles. Then what you'll see is things that are optional here, so that's blue with an O in it for optional, and obviously that's going to be a spare pin for the arrow rest, or a spare tape for your arrow rest, or in fact even spare arrow rests can even be factored into that. Pressure button, across all of the modern styles you need a pressure button, so it's going to be yes across the board. So in the beginning everything's kind of the same, but as we get a little bit further down, so things like finger tabs, Olympic versus bare bow, that's going to now be specific to the shooting style that you use. So for instance, here with finger tab Olympic, you're not allowed or not permitted to have a split in your finger tab for bare bow. So you need to have a bare bow specific tab, and vice versa. So that's basically what's happening over here. So I've now put in here for bow hunter, if you're shooting a split finger technique, which you can do, then you would need an Olympic finger tab. Over here, if you're shooting a 3-under technique, then you would need to have a bare bow tab. So this is just, again, like I said, it's just to try and yeah, and then again in the notes, consideration must be taken for whether the archer will be shooting split finger or 3-under technique, different tab options. So now you start to see the differences between the shooting styles. Okay, then going down further, you'll start to see more variance. This is where it really comes in, is the different shooting styles are mainly separated by what accessories you can use, what you're permitted to use, what you're not permitted to use. Of course, there is also the element of how you shoot the bow in terms of aiming techniques, drawing techniques, things like that, sighting techniques, but really we're talking about actual equipment requirements at this point. So now you start to see the differences between the bows. So a bare bow riser weight is recommended obviously for bow hunter. We use that with the 12-inch stabilizer. Bare bow, it is not required or not permitted. Not really, actually. It's not even so much not permitted as much as it doesn't make sense for the shooting style. It's because you can use full stabilizer. So you use a long rod stabilizer, or you would use that with V-bar unit. So of course recommended over here. Okay, so like I said, this resource is just to kind of give you a guide and an indication of what you actually need for depending on what shooting style you want. If you're not ready to actually make a decision between shooting styles, you kind of almost need to make sure you get your baseline bow, and then you might need to make sure you have access to the different options as far as accessories are concerned, so that you can try it out, spend some time shooting like that, and then sort of chop and change and make your decision later on as to which of the disciplines you would like to pursue or take more seriously. Okay. Yeah, so that's really how the resource works. Like I said, I want to keep it as a live sheet that can be updated and changed as we go. As you'll see, sort of what I've also done is I've started the spreadsheet with your most crucial, important items first. So obviously that's going to be your bow. You can't do anything without a bow, but of course you can't do anything without arrows either. So it then kind of goes down. You could shoot without a finger tab, but it's obviously recommended to have. So now you've got your accessories, your shooting gear, and then you're going to have things like your stabilization, your sights, your clickers, and then of course that's going to be accessories that actually fit on the bow. And then below that you have actual accessories and tools. These are things that are sort of a part of the kit, things like bow bags and bow stands, bow stringers, things that don't directly connect to the bow but are kind of necessary or recommended for your overall kit. And then beyond that, you can have your assembly tools. This is actually really more for people that are really wanting to take it that step further, to be able to work on their own equipment without having to use a club's facilities or a shop's facilities. So things like, you know, fletching jigs and serving jigs, string jigs, bow vices, arrow saws, that kind of stuff. Most of this stuff, in fact, all of this stuff should be available at a club or a shop that you're close to. Of course, if you're wanting to do your own stuff, it's fantastic to have these things, but obviously you can see everything here is pretty much marked as optional, except for the fletching jig. Having your own fletching jig really is pretty good to have. It allows you to not have to deal with other people's settings on a sort of communal fletching jig. You can set it up the way you want it, and nobody else is going to touch it or get super glue all over it, which happens a lot. And then you've got exercise stuff below that. These things are, of course, always optional, but can be really good for your training. And so down the line, almost all of our guys end up with these exercise tools at some point. And then of course just a little section over here with consumables, things that make a lot of sense, especially if you are doing your own work on your equipment, having super glue, having the different materials that you need, gas for your butane gas canister, all of that kind of stuff is just, yeah, really handy. And pretty much every workshop is going to have these things, so not bad to keep in a little toolbox with your kit. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes sense. Like I said, I'm going to give you this link in the comments below. You'll have access to it at any point in time, and it will continue to update and change. I see even as I went through this, maybe a couple of things I might adjust, but basically it's always there. Please let us know if you think anything kind of doesn't make sense, or if you think we could add or change anything on this sheet to make it better, make it more intuitive. Yeah, if you have any questions about what I've got in the sheet or what I've just taken you through now, just pop them below, or obviously contact me directly, and we're going to be obviously ready and willing to help. So yeah, thank you so much. Obviously, if this is on YouTube, subscribe. If it's on Facebook, obviously you're already seeing it. So, but yeah, subscribe, like, share, and thank you so much.